Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for EFA Remodel Renovation Competition, a review of the 2021 winners, a SAGE webinar reviewing the most recent winning entries of Environments for Aging's annual competition. My name is Rick D'Amico, and I am a proud SAGE board member. I'm also the Vice President of Development for the Bel Air Group, a full-service senior living development consulting team, and it is my pleasure to be moderating today's session. Now, before we begin reviewing the award-winning projects, I would like to ask our attendees to please take a moment to find the chat box on your screen, and if you don't mind, type in the name of your city. While you're sharing your location, I will briefly introduce our panelists today. Lisa Warnock is a principal with Tomahawk Design. Her firm has been recognized with numerous senior living design awards, and in 2021, Lisa was also a juror for the Remodel Renovation Awards we will review today. She will be sharing juror comments throughout today's session and information about how you may become a future juror. The award-winning projects representatives include Melinda Avila-Torio, Associate Principal, Senior Interior Designer with THW Design, Jennifer Sheehan, Senior Director, Project Manager with Spell and Brady and Company, and Deborah Seitz, Principal with Leonard Rogers and Associates in Interiors. Each of the designers will have an opportunity later in the session to share more about themselves, their projects, and how they interacted with their clients and other consultants to create dynamic, award-winning environments for aging. Okay, let's take a look at the cities that are represented by attendees today. Lori, did you have an exact tally of East Coast versus West Coast attendees, or how many representatives, how many represent the Heartland versus the South? While Lori's taking a look at your responses, I'll go ahead and thank Lori for representing the Mountain region as our Boise representative. And while I'm a proud Texan, I'll give a shout out to Des Moines, Iowa, as I've called it my home for many, many, many years. Just take a look at the cities that are represented. We have a diverse membership among SAGE members, and we're equally happy to have those that are not members yet joining us today. Along with, where we represent our membership, I just want to go on to say that SAGE is the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments. We are a membership-based organization representing and promoting a collaboration between all disciplines in the senior living industry. Our members are involved in partnerships, advocacy, research, and education that positively impacts the senior living industry. SAGE is also pleased to present AIA-approved webinars every month, and these webinars are free to SAGE members. Please visit sagefederation.org for information on upcoming events and how to become a SAGE member. Okay, at this point, or just to let everyone know, you are muted, and we have a few housekeeping slides to go over, as this is an AIA certified course. Also, if you would like to ask any questions of our panelists today, there is a Q&A button. It may be at the top of your screen. And if you'll, during the course of the presentation, ask those questions, we'll review them after the AIA portion of the session is over. So please make sure you take advantage of that. SAGE is an AI-approved provider, and participants in this course are eligible for one AIA learning unit. Please note you must be registered for and logged into the webinar to receive AIA credit or a certificate of completion. SAGE will report credits earned by course attendees to AIA CES, and we will provide certificates of completion within 1 week. If you did not enter your member number or request a certificate of completion upon registration, please email info@sagefederation.org. The information presented in today's presentation is protected under copyright. The course description was made available to all attendees, but a quick reminder, Environments for Aging's magazine's annual remodel renovation competition with support from SAGE brings together winners from the annual competitions to explore how each specific project team approached their unique environments to create meaningful settings. Our session objectives are listed here, and they include learning about each of the projects and range, size, scope, learning about design attributes, the challenges and solutions, understanding the importance of including operations, building the appropriate teams, and then gaining insights into design award submissions. So we'll go over how to apply for this year's competition. Our agenda in support of the previous listed objectives will describe the EFA remodel renovation competition history and purpose. We'll go through the 2021 annual submittal and review process. Lisa will lead that. Then present the 13th annual award-winning projects. That's why all of you are here. We'll be there very shortly, I promise. Again, we'll talk about the annual submittal process for this year and open the session today to questions and answers. Sage is a proud partner with Emerald going back to 1997, and today's session was first presented in person at the 2022 EFA conference in Milwaukee. There continues to be a strong collaborative effort between Emerald, EFA, and Sage to recognize the very best remodel and renovation projects in senior living. Sage is now in its 14th year helping Emerald and EFA with the juror selection, the review of the project submittals, and presenting the winning projects and their teams at the annual EFA conference. I will now turn the microphone over to Lisa Warnock, who will first describe the 2021 review process and identify its jurors. She will then introduce the award winners and their projects, followed by a review of juror comments for each one of the projects. Lisa, I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning, everyone. It's exciting to be here. So the way we did the jurying of last year's winners, for 2021, there was a panel of experts. So they were assembled by Sage, and we reviewed all of the 2021 submissions and determined the gold, silver, and bronze winners. All of the participating firms were included in the remodel and renovation gallery at last year's EFA conference. And the winners also appeared in this issue here, the summer 2021 EFA magazine, with a full one-page feature of their project, allowing readers to really learn all about the completed the competition entries. So for more information about the 2021 winners, you can go to the website that will be included in our final slide deck for today's presentation. So the way we did it was there was 27 projects and 16 jurors made up of senior living providers, architects, and interior designers, and industry consultants. For round one, the projects were split between the two groups of jurors and narrowed down to the top 8. For round two, we all reviewed the top 8 and we distilled them down to the top 3, which were named gold, silver, and bronze winners. All 3 projects are going to be featured here and represented today, and they also received editorial coverage of their projects in the summer 2021 issue of Environments for Aging magazine. As you can see here, the group was assembled by Sage, representing multidisciplinary backgrounds and experience, including providers, academics, architects, interior designers, researchers, and regulators. We want to take this opportunity now to thank all of the jurors for their time. If you're interested in becoming a juror, please visit sagefederation.org/jury-duty. Sage EFA has asked Sage to finalize the jury selection by August 10th of this year, so don't delay if you're interested. The diversity and professional backgrounds of the jury will be similar to last year's and what you see on the screen. So if you've applied to be a juror before and weren't selected, apply again. The competition is pretty stiff, so don't be discouraged. Just keep applying until you get selected. Okay, now we're going to get into the fun stuff, and we're going to present the bronze, silver, and gold winning award projects. For the bronze winner, it was Wesley Enhanced Living, Upper Marland. The renovation was the reception and lobby area of the campus of the building. It's located in Hatboro, Pennsylvania, with a total renovation cost of just over $2 million for the whole project. An astonishingly efficient cost per square foot of $107, which is amazing. The residents served here are independent living and personal care, and the project was completed in June of 2020. To present the project here today is Deborah Seitz with Lenhart Rogers Architecture Plus Interiors. Deborah, please take it away and tell us all about your amazing project.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Rick, as well. this was a fun project, and I want to start off by just giving a shout out to the rest of the team that worked on this project. My colleagues, Joyce Lenhart and Jackie Patterson, helped out with the architecture as well as the interior design. We used DCI Macintosh for the structural engineering, and then more engineering for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. And then Corsi Associates did the culinary design. You can advance the slide, please. So this project encompassed many areas of the common spaces, but the bulk of the work was in this lobby space. And this is what generated the idea. The client, Well, which was formerly called Wellesley Enhanced Living, wanted to upgrade their lobby. They felt that it was no longer the best way to enter the building. It didn't have enough pizzazz and wow factor. As you can see from the plan on the right, there wasn't a lot of open space. But one thing that was quite interesting is our firm actually designed this building from scratch, so to speak, back in the early 90s. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the entire building, and the part that we're talking about is right there circled in red. So back to the before plan. On the right-hand side, as soon as you come in, there's a lounge. That had actually been a couple of small rooms that were like a small game room and a small lounge. And over time, walls were taken down to try to, to make it bigger and try to make residents sort of stay there and hang out. And while this whole arrangement was efficient and every community had this kind of thing back in the early 90s, it really just didn't work anymore. The straight corridor right through became basically a highway. People just came in the front door and kept going. So we needed to rethink all of this. Next slide, please. So one of the big things that we did is we picked up that entire administrative suite that was on the left-hand side, and we moved it to an adjacent underutilized multi-purpose room. And that's just off the screen or to the lower left. And that was a game changer. It now let us have an exterior wall that was onto an existing courtyard that was underused because nobody could really see it. And then there were two other things that happened. This is a steel structure, so there were some columns, and what we did is we decided to place a lounge space right in the middle of this corridor. And it does something in two ways. It creates this circulation around it, but what that really does is it slows you down. You now walk in the door and you have to choose which direction you're going to go. So right away, that gives you the opportunity to see other people and hear other things and smell things that might, food that might be going on in the bistro. So you're greeted with a low reception desk, and I'll show you an image of that in another slide. To your left is a fireplace lounge and a great view of this courtyard. And to the right, you have seating for the bistro. And as you progress up to the right, the bistro bar is right there. And then further up the screen, but you can't really see it, is the serving kitchen for that bistro. It's kind of hidden behind that wall. Now, swinging on back over to the left side, we have a TV lounge. So it seems a little odd having a TV lounge and a fireplace lounge back to back, but it's a small place, and it was really about just sort of activating and giving people different options. And we set up these translucent screens in between the spaces to give them sort of a sense of perimeter, but to also allow a lot of visual of all the spaces as well as light. And then the mailboxes are located on the upper left-hand side. And that, is a hub of activity. And so that becomes quite the hangout. And people tend to get their mail and then sit down in that center lounge space with those curved banquettes. And it's proving to be quite successful. So we'll move on to the next slide, show you a few images of the space. So this was the before shot. You came in the lobby, in the vestibule into the lobby. There was your typical reception desk and a small waiting room. Beyond that door was the administrative suite. You can move on. Now, when you walk in, you get a view of this courtyard, this lovely seating area that's expanded. It's light filled. You can see the translucent screen sort of creating, you know, that sort of fourth wall to the space. And if you note on the ceiling, the softening follows the same pattern of the flooring, of the carpet and the LVT, to help emphasize this curvilinear shape, and that it adds a certain dynamic to the space. Next slide. I'm sorry, would you go back for just a moment? I apologize. On the upper left, there's an image of the reception desk, and it's really very simple. It's made to just look like a desk you might have in your home. Behind it is a low wall that has some cabinetry. It's not quite visible in this screenshot, but that's where, you know, a lot of the security camera functions and stuff like that are hidden. Next slide. So when you walked into that vestibule, the reception desk was on your left. This is what you would have seen to the right. And because I had said there were walls that were taken down, you can see the windows don't even have the same sill height, and they were appropriate height for whatever the function was of that previous space, but certainly don't serve this space very well at this time. Next slide. So now this is taken looking back down at that, but you can see on the right-hand side in the background, those 4 windows are there. We actually added a 5th, and they're all regularized the same size. That's the bistro seating area. And then this is the bar, the bistro bar. And then to the left off the screen is that serving kitchen. So you'll notice this is a high bar. This was quite a discussion point. They polled the residents, and the residents did not want to be at a table height bar with a server standing high above them. And then the budget did not allow us to break through the slab and do a depressed well for the server to stand. And the community agreed that they would be happy with a 42-inch high bar, and we tested out seating for them. And this has been living under use for about 2 years now, and everybody seems to be happy and are still flocking to this area. So I guess the seating worked out. Next slide. So this is that corridor looking back down at that front door at the lobby, at the front door. And, you know, to the left would have been the whole bistro area, and to the right was is in the new plan is a gift shop, the mailboxes, and the open lounges. Next slide. Now, this isn't quite the same view, but this is that center lounge space right behind the reception desk, which is to the left. And then that shot was taken down the corridor to the right. So even your view of the front door is now sort of interrupted with something far more interesting to look at. And next slide. I'll hand this back over to you, Lisa.
Awesome project, Deborah. I loved this one. I thought it was amazing. You know, I really appreciated the incorporation of that axonometric view that you included in your presentation. It really helped me as a juror to like immediately understand the extent of the renovation. I love your involvement that you brought the residents in to be a part of that conversation about counter height versus table height. It's always a very highly contested conversation. So the jurors all got to personalize their thoughts on all of the submissions. And so we've highlighted just a few here. Mine is at the top here. I really love how much this feels like it improved the resident experience. I envision that residents would be very drawn just to come hang out in the space, see what's happening, and have great opportunities for chance encounters with their neighbors. Another one is wow, what a stunning transformation of an institutional lobby into a peaceful residential scale living room. Nicely opens up the spaces, brings in daylighting and visually cues the now visible elevators. Appreciate how well the structural column was incorporated into the aesthetic. And another juror stated that the transformation per dollar spent is what put this project in first for them. The plan changes and reorganization of the space layout makes this more than just a fresh coat of paint, but a true change of experience for the users. So well done. Your team did an excellent job. Thank you.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to move on to the silver winner, the Sagewood Senior Living Community located in Phoenix, Arizona. There was a renovation of a cafe, had a total renovation cost of $285. That was inclusive of all the FF&E, and they did need to include the commercial kitchen equipment in that budget. So it had a cost per square foot of $485. Residents served here are independent living residents, and the project completed in November of 2020. The project will be presented today by Jen Sheehan of Spellman, Brady and Company. Jen, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I wanted to just kind of highlight this project for you all. So I'm speaking on behalf of Alicia Nicolay, and am blessed with the opportunity to give you a different perspective. So we were paired with, of course, our entire team at Spellman Brady, which is a great, robust team full of talented designers. We had a lot of help there, and then we also were working with Todd and Associates as our architect and LCS Development. You can move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is the overall campus. As you can see, it's a pretty sprawling community. So to the right, you have some existing IL apartments and some casitas. And then to the left of the screen, up in that upper corner, is the apartments for AL, Health Center, and there's a multi-purpose room and two dining, new dining venues. So, but the portion of our work is actually taking place in the central hub of this community. So you can kind of see a rotunda just north of that arrow. That is a real common space or a gathering spot for all of the community to kind of hang out or just kind of meet up. And then that exterior, right where that arrow is pointing, is a beautiful exterior courtyard, and it's just back to the space that we're working on. So that highlighted area there, that's the project that we're working on. So you can move to the next slide. Okay, so diving into this plan, this was the before. So we have the existing library and the reading room. Those two spaces were not part of our scope, but they were very important to the whole design as we really developed this new cafe. So the residents of this community, they were really engaged and really loved everything about their reading room and their library. And so their interaction was incredibly important to us. Their involvement helped us really create and craft the space that they so love today. So this existing coffee space, it's of good size. The dining space is of good size, but the island where the restaurant and the equipment was being served out of was very limited. They didn't have a lot of equipment to really provide more than just a few simple meals a day. So the goal with this was to really give them that ability to have more meals come out of this kitchen. And they had this convenience store just behind the coffee shop. And that was really underutilized as well. With today's world, everybody's doing online shopping, and they have a very great amenity where people do personal shopping within this community. So they had that, and this convenience store was just underused. So we were able to take this entire space and develop a plan. So like I had mentioned in the overall plan, we had an exterior courtyard. And during the construction of this project, that courtyard came in very handy for us because our construction team, White's Construction, was able to access this area of work and really keep the rest of the community out of it. So they weren't they weren't interrupted in their day, and they were able to kind of carry on with their work And it really was nice, especially during COVID. So that direct access was good for the construction team and the residents. So this is the after of that floor plan. As you can see to the right, we have this Canyon Cafe kitchen. It is a fully equipped kitchen that can serve every meal out of it. And they can really use this space. So if another kitchen in the community needed support, they have it here. So we added that beautiful full service kitchen, and then we have this bar right outside of that space. And this is, again, a pretty full service. We have a nice little detail that I'll show you here at the end of our slides. But diving into the floor plan and the furniture layout, we have kind of a mix of seating. So you have a little banquette down to the bottom right, and that is really kind of a fun little intimate space and is very popular among the residents. We also have this big communal table that's between the two columns. And that, again, is very popular, and it helps create a very intergenerational experience because there's plug and play there. You know, family can come to visit their loved ones, or even residents can hang out with staff, or even staff meetings happen here. So there's a good variety of seating. And then as we look at this space, you can see that the reading room, that space was really key to having that connection. So the residents wanted that the reading room and the library have that connectivity to the cafe, and before they didn't have that. And so now we've punched a hole in that opening, allowed that flow to come through there. And that really helped, you know, for residents to grab a coffee and go sit down and read their paper. Whereas before they had to kind of walk around the entire space through the rotunda, go through there, get what they needed, and then come back through. So it just was kind of an inconvenience. So that simple opening really kind of just expanded our project even into the library space next to the reading room. So this is the before for that project. This is basically standing at that reading room, looking back into the convenience set in the convenience store. As you can see, the serving counter of that cafe is pretty large. It's taking up a lot of space, and it doesn't really have a lot of equipment there to really support what this community needed. And based on their needs, we wanted to give them that full service kitchen. So you can move to the next slide. So this was the after. This shows you kind of looking at that same view, how we were able to transform that space. You see in the corner, we have the little banquette, or big banquette, I should say, that really creates that intimate, comfortable seating. The joiner communal table in the center, which gives you a great place to touch down and have quick meetings. But just being in a space that has a lot of texture, a lot of warmth, it's just very welcoming. And we spent a lot of time in the very beginning of our project with the residents and engaging with them and trying to understand what their needs were. And we did a lot of, you know, site visits and tours of different things to help develop this palette. So, you know, the decisions that were made on the finishes were directly related to the programming and the conversations that we had with our clients. So we did focus a lot on the acoustics. As you can tell, we've got some hard surfaces in there, but we did add a lot of beautiful baffles that cut through the space and help divide the space up, or define the space, I should say. The wood-clad walls also offer an acoustical property, as well as the light fixtures in this space. Those have an acoustical membrane to help absorb some of that sound. So we really have a good balance of acoustics and lighting and just texture and places to sit within this space. Right beyond the communal table, you can kind of see in the foreground a bar, and that's the bar that has, you know, that connection to that fully equipped kitchen. Okay, so this is a before looking back at that reading room. You can see that it's just kind of closed off. And what we had done is we poked a hole right in that wall and opened it up. So you can show the next slide, please. So this is kind of standing a little bit looking directly at that. So you can see that barn door beyond it, that joiner table or that communal table, and you know, we've powered it so people can plug in and hang out there. But as you zoom in here, you can see that there's some artistic drawings on the wall. These were inspired by the residents and by the local area of the floral and the fauna. And so we commissioned a local muralist to do this for us. And I tell you what, it was pretty cool seeing the time-lapse photography and the work that went into that. There was a lot of detail went into that one. So. And then this is standing back at that bar, looking into the convenience store. Again, you know, like I said in the early slides, that space was just not used, and so we wanted to take this prime real estate and make it useful for them. The whole goal of this project was to give the residents a space that allowed them to have that interaction and a place to hang out and order food around the clock if they wanted to. And this existing space was only pushing out like 25 meals at most a day. So we were really, you know, wanting to give them a space that gave them what they needed. So then the after slide, this is a nice little detail from the millwork package on the back bar. This shows a backlit panel along that cabinet. And so it was a fun little decision that Alicia and the team came up with, was to have that light panel turn on whenever a happy hour is happening. So anytime that panel turns on, then you're able to see that happy hour is available and you can grab your drink. And so those are just some of the finer details that we were sure to incorporate into our design. All in all, we were supposed to have 50 to 60 meals come out of this restaurant per day. That was the goal for this space. And currently we are seeing over 100 meals come out of this space per day. So it was a huge benefit for the community. And it happens to be one of the most popular hotspots for the residents and family and staff. So yeah, that is Sagewood.
Oh my goodness, what an amazing transformation. And I love that backlit bar as a kind of a beacon and an icon. And like, come on down, guys, party's on. That was my favorite part.
Lisa and I would just like the lights to stay on, please, in that little
Oh,
area. I'm sure
too.
many of our attendees would agree.
Yeah. So yeah, great, beautiful project. Well done. Your comments, very complimentary. You know, this project really pushed the boundaries of senior living into the commercial retail world. We shouldn't have to leave behind edgy contemporary design. Very nice integration of the support kitchen to make this bistro successful. Beautiful re-envisioning of a dated cafe and convenience smart into a hip setting for any time of day. This new venue would be just at home in the resort as it is for Sagewood community. The cafe renovation provides various seating options and is aesthetically pleasing. Good collaboration with the food team, residents, and staff to fully use the space. And this lively hangout is created within the existing walls of a once dreary space. An amazing level of detail comprised of regional and industrial materials differentiates a variety of gathering spots. The articulated ceiling, including wood and acoustic baffles, counterbalances the hard surfaces of the tile, brick, and metal, adding not only interest, but sound control to the space. Yeah, so great job. I agree, that acoustic incorporation, really, really well done. Rick, do you want to add any comments?
Well, sure. You know, as Lisa was reading some of the efforts made by the team to mitigate acoustical interference, a lot of that came from the narrative provided by each of the teams. So you are seeing the actual submittal packages, the images, the before and after come from the teams. So as a juror, you know, we see these beautiful images, but we rely on the narrative. You'll hear more about that later, but very well done. And there's certainly more comments that the jurors provided, but these are some of the highlights. I'll give it back to you, Lisa.
Awesome. Okay, now we are on to our gold winner. Gold winner was Asbury Bethany Village. The Bistro, it was called, at Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Total renovation cost of $2 million. Residents served here are independent living. The project completed in January of 2021, and we will be presented by Melinda Avila-Torio from THW Design. Take it away, Melinda.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Lisa. I have the privilege and honor to be part of this panel. And as you can see from the projects that Jen and Deborah just shared with the audience, what an amazing group of talented folks that I am present here alongside today with you. I'm very grateful to represent our very talented team. Our lead interior designer was Joyce Raydell, managed by our architectural group, Mark Master Pasqua and Bing Perry. This was truly a labor of love of a project. It started back in 2012 and it took almost a decade for it to come into fruition. And what resulted from that labor of love was truly a better utilization of space. It brought to the campus a different and refreshed and renewed way of celebrating food. As hopefully you can see throughout the slides here, you'll gain a better perspective of what the project challenged the team with, but truly what has been a true gift by the residents and for the overall community. This space was constructed during the COVID season. So just like any project or what many of you have experienced, there were a delay in schedules simply because communities needed to figure out how to respond to the pandemic situation. What you see here on floor plan is an existing graphic of what we were looking at for that core area. Right next to the blue arrow on the southern part of the floor plan was an enclosed reception desk. It lacked the approach and welcoming feel that you really crave for when you come into a community center for identity and just to get a sense of that friendship and camaraderie that comes with any senior retirement community. The long linear space that is sort of cascaded with that long arrow was a corridor, but it lacked the sense of a pre-function area that you crave for when you come into a common area such as this space. So what we were trying to do was really look at a pre-function zone that was serving a multi-purpose room, but it acted more like a empty space that didn't have the energy that the residents were craving for. Rick, if you could advance to the next slide. So during the pandemic season, we were challenged with a new request from the client, and they wanted us to look at the furniture layout, given the new recommendation for spacing. So the furniture was already underway as being procured for the project, and we had to look at different ways to transfer or relocate things like the game table that you see on the southern part of the plan. Luckily, we had a space that was the elevator that's slightly north left of this plan that the project team could commandeer and relocate temporarily to meet those spacing requirements. So enlarging the spacing was very key to this space plan challenge. Rick, if you could advance, please. So you can see in this lobby photo here, really the other side, which is the multi-purpose room. It's a large space that really was configured to function like a chapel. But however, the benefit and the gift that was in this existing infrastructure was a kitchen, a rather substantial size kitchen. So that brought some great future potential to this area. So this led the design team and the client groups to understand that this was an opportunity to provide better space utilization and provide a new excitement of a destination space for the residents. Rick, if you could advance, please. So as you can begin to see in this photo, kind of glimpses into activity nodes. And that was key here because though the spaces in the other components of the campus had some common areas, this truly was going to act as a town center, a synergistic center that would be just enveloped with natural daylight. You could hear the sounds of socialization. You could smell the food coming in. So it really created this kind of social space that just incidental conversations could happen, or even scheduled events could happen. And they could happen together, but very naturally. What I will show you in a later slide that you can't see right now, there was a true challenge here because in the open area, the core area, we had to look at a strategic approach in how to bring light, especially above the banquette seating that you see here in the photograph. If you could advance, Rick. So this area right here, if you remember from the floor plan that Rick was showing earlier, this is that kind of pre-function zone area right outside the multi-purpose room. It doesn't have any real strong visual cueing. It didn't lend itself to providing any kind of welcoming feel or a socialization space. It purely was lined up with furniture, but what we realized that there was an inherent assets here, and that was the amount, an abundant amount of natural light coming through the tall windows, and also the volume of space that doesn't exist in any other building component on the community campus. If you could advance, Rick. So in that same perspective, this is that view now. We've taken out that partition. We've really opened up that view. We've given the eye a sense of stimulation to kind of see in different layers of spaces. And we've also given the residents a sense of choice here. They can decide the level of socialization they feel like participating during that time frame. You can advance, Rick. Again, you can see that this large enclosed space truly impacted that lobby. That was just a long linear corridor, but now you get a sense of appreciation of what that natural daylight could provide in the upper clear story windows. So this was that kind of high volume space that was very limited and did not exist in the other building components. You can advance, thank you. So when I mentioned in the earlier slide about the strategic approach about bringing light to that center area, you see in this photograph that built in with the banquette seating. Now bringing the electricity over into this area, what you can't see here clearly is on the other side of this built-in partition is also a cased opening. It's functioning like a bridge. So the wiring is coming from that left side where you see the tile area, and you're able to bring across that bridge the power necessary to provide artificial lighting above the banquettes. So it's kind of like that Disney World application. You see the beauty and the imagination of a space, but you don't see what's happening behind the scenes. And that's the wonderful thing about the solution for this particular project. Asbury really elevated their benchmark here. I have to give kudos to them for really staying clear and being disciplined to their mission. What they've been able to do with the outer community and with Bethany Village itself is bringing that whole entire experience together in a large platform like this. And they were really a true testament to engaging the residents here. And that's it. I'll hand it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Melinda. My goodness, what an amazing project. I have to say, as a juror, it was really, really difficult to order those sort of top three because there was amazing work represented here by all of you. I love your very creative use of adding in lighting with that skylight, always such a big challenge. The skylights are so fantastic, but they're also so challenging, right? And so really, really great solution that you did there. And of course, the very thorough incorporation of biophilia throughout every surface in that space was really, really thoughtful and well done. Additional thoughts from the jurors, the reorganization of the overall space was the star here. The multiple zones with varied seating configurations orbiting the central dining offer new experiences day after day. A beautiful transformation of space, nice color contrast with warm and cool colors. This contrast is both visually appealing and good for visual changes with aging. The use of a combination of uplighting and large scale pendant lighting make the space feel bright and welcoming without glare. The pendants also give some intimacy or scale to the high ceilings. And the biggest transformation of space, reclaimed corridor space, and the biggest impact for the users. Comes at one of the highest costs per square foot, this is a space I want to spend time in. I would agree with that.
I love that last comment, and that should be shared with all three of our award winners today. The transformation, the higher opportunities for socialization, the warmth, the each one of them brought in natural lighting, the seating arrangements. You know, we hear choice a lot. We probably think about the choices of amenities, but aging with dignity, a place to sit where you're more comfortable, can change over time. And each one of these teams did that. But that final sentence there, this is a space I want to spend time in. Absolutely here. And again, for the other two winners, very, very well done. If we could ask our attendees to give this group a round of applause, please do so. So thank you for highlighting your projects. In a few minutes, we will open the floor to questions and answers. But we want to share a little more information about the upcoming 14th remodel renovation entry and the jury process. Environments for Aging is pleased to announce the 14th annual remodel renovation competition. Submissions will focus on single spaces, including dining spaces, lounges, activity areas, lobbies, and other resident spaces. Panel of experts, as appointed by Sage, will review all submissions and determine, again, the gold, silver, and bronze winners. Winners will receive special recognition at our annual EFA conference, spring of 2023. Along with that, in-person recognition, bonus coverage of the projects will be in the winter 2022 issue of Environments for Aging. In addition, all participating firms will be included in the remodel renovation gallery, also appearing in the winter 2022 issue with a quarter-page feature of the project, allowing readers the opportunity to view all the competition entries. We ask that you include before and after images, the facility names. You can see some of the logistics there. The slide deck will be made available to you, but reservations are due by the 10th with your presentation due by the 31st. So please keep those dates in mind. Projects must be, this is a little different this year. Projects for this competition will include going back to May of 2019. I want to say that again. We're going back to May of 2019. Due to COVID, a lot of teams were unable to get into the space. The operators on the call here today will tell you they wanted to limit some of the work and certainly limit consultants, any teams coming back, even for photographs. So we want to give teams an opportunity that may not have been able to be recognized with last year or even the year before. Lisa, do you want to talk a little bit more about tips for a great submittal?
Absolutely. You know, as you saw, the jurors are volunteers having busy full-time jobs. And so really one of the most important things when you're looking at 16 projects and then another 8 projects again is really just to help the jurors understand your project as quickly and succinctly and comprehensively as possible. So like I said, that axon view that Deborah's team provided, that campus overall site plan that Jen's team provided, all of those things just quickly get the juror understanding, okay, where is this space and how does it relate to the overall community? And just kind of gets you right in there quickly. And not everybody reviewing is an architect or an interior designer also. So keep that in mind, that this needs to be very easy for people to read and understand. So of course, make sure your floor plan's legible. If you're going to insert it into a PowerPoint, you know, make sure it's not pixelated and blurry. Like, you know, people want to be able to read all the copy and text inside that floor plan to understand. Orient the plan to, orient it with a north signal, all of those things that really help people understand. Include great pictures. It's very impactful when you take your before photo from the exact same angle you're pretty sure you're going to take your after photos from, and you kind of know where your wow shots are going to be. So ensure that you're taking your before photos from the same vantage point as you think you'll take your afters. It makes a huge difference. Don't label your before pictures with your firm's name in the submission. These are supposed to be anonymous submissions. The jurors are not meant to know who any of the people are submitting. So make sure you protect your anonymity, is that right? By not labeling the before by your firm's name. talk about how this project's renovation impacted the lives of the residents. We love the story. We love to hear how residents' lives were improved by renovation. And we love to hear how the operations were improved, how the operators' jobs were made easier, how sales improved, whatever you can tell us that improved the experience for everybody. And then finally, the narrative should really be written by the team that designed the project, not the marketing director from your firm, in our opinion. We think the narrative will be much more comprehensive and will give us more insight about all of the challenges and the exciting outcomes if it's written by somebody who actually worked on the project. So those are all my tips for how to really get across the finish line and up into that top 8 into the final 3.
Thank you, Lisa. As you have questions, please reach out to us. And again, this information will be made available to you afterwards. So a very big and sincere congratulations to the award-winning teams, and we thank the panelists for their insights today. This concludes the AIA CES education portion of the course, but we're not done yet. We have a few minutes to go through any questions you may have. I did click on the Q&A button. I didn't see questions there. Thankfully, our host prepared some questions for our panelists, but if you would still like to ask some questions, please do so through the Q&A button there on the top of your screen. Okay, so let's dive into some Q&A for our guests today, our guest panelists. And just for those, again, who may not have a chance to answer your question, here's the contact information. I'm sorry, names of each presenter and their project. So this is for all three presenters today. Did your project encounter any regulatory challenges? If so, maybe less how you met those challenges, but how did you push back? Were you able to convince a regulator that this is the right way to do this? Push back a little bit, educate planners and agencies having jurisdiction. Did that happen in any of your projects?
It did not happen on the Asbury project, so luckily that was not a challenge for this one.
I'll say for the Well Upper Moreland lobby renovation, we were fortunate that the township building official was the same person who was there when we first built the building or designed the building decades ago. And we had gone through a lot of hoops and stuff like that at that point. And so he was very easy this time. And this project really didn't warrant too much. There was a little bit of questions with bringing the bistro area up front, but we lucked out.
Okay.
As for Spelman Brady, we didn't have any issues either. I mean, we had it was already a cafe, so it was just a renovation of the cafe. So it was just a nice transformation, and everyone in the community was on board and excited about all the additional features that we brought to them.
For all the design consultants on the call today, as a developer, when we put an RFP out, mention the working relationships you might have with the planning department, like Deborah did. How fortunate was her team to have already gone through a process once. That familiarity might move you ahead to some of the competition. Was there anything that your team did in its own recommendations, solutions, with regard to an operator saying, I want this, and they're right, but you felt like if we did this, it makes it a better right? So were there any instances where your operator might have at first said no, they were a little hesitant, but you were able to convince them, let's push the envelope and do something different, take it to the next level? Melinda, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think for the Asbury project, luckily when they were studying the floor plan and they saw that unique asset of a kitchen already in place, plugging in and understanding the cost of upgrading that, which was close to $500,000 for upgrading an existing kitchen to now properly support this social venue. It was a no-brainer, but I'm sure it was a price tag that wasn't anticipated, but they understood the importance of it and accepted it.
Jennifer?
So I don't really know if I have the answer to that one. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Deborah?
Kind of the whole project.
Yeah.
The owner just thought maybe we needed to, just do a bunch of new finish changes and maybe find a way to bring like a simple cafe or just like a grab and go there up to that, that lobby space. And the more we looked at it, we realized you have to move the administrative suite. And, we talked, of course, with the client, but also with residents, and they agreed that, moving the administrative suite into their multipurpose room and relocating the multipurpose room would be ideal. And, so we sort of created that whole plan, again, beyond what they wanted. But, in order to still keep it within the budget, I have to give extreme kudos to my interior design colleague, Jackie Patterson, who really worked with the same concept that she wanted to, but with more budget-friendly materials, and really saved some money on the FF&E budget. So we were able to put a little more of that overall budget into the architecture.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me, because, when we look at these spaces and we think about renovation or repurposing those areas, in your particular project, you were asking administrative personnel, staff members to relocate. And that's sometimes hard to ask personnel to do that. So you have to have support from the top to say, what we're going to create for the residents. It's their home. It's a resident-centric amenity center. And commend you on being so successful in that dialogue. Melinda, what you did was essentially you added cost maybe to the project, and where we can support that is market relevancy, and that's an important feature. So for every dollar spent, how can you recover it? Well, you can't always recover it dollar for dollar, but if you're becoming a more dynamic, the competition sees you as a greater threat, and more importantly, residents want to live there. They become your spokespersons. They are your champions of the changes. I mean, it's night and day. All three of the projects really very successful, and I imagine they're all very well used. What I liked about Jennifer's comments was, dining doubled, and that's a revenue source potentially. And again, just commend all of you for your fantastic work. So we are at the end of our presentation here. Just again, a big thank you for not only the award winners, but there were several teams. I recognized a few of them on the call as participants. While they did not win, my gosh, really every one of these presentations, every submittal started about an A level. It is a difficult task to be a juror because of the quality of the presentations and what we see. As Lisa mentioned, the images and how you articulate those spaces and their uses, that will work to your advantage. But we also want to thank those that submitted projects as part of the 2021 awards. This concludes our session. So thank you, Lisa, Melinda, Jennifer, Deborah, for sharing valuable information. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you'll be prompted to fill out a quick survey, say nice things, please, and provide comments, suggestions that can help us continue to provide interesting and worthwhile webinars. On behalf of SAGE, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.